Welcome back. We're back to the Mediums book. And let me share my screen here.
Yeah.
We are on chapter 4, movements and suspensions, noises. We are on question 19 here.
Yes.
So Kardec is asking the spirits how the physical effects happen, and we are trying to understand how they happen and what's the participation of the mediums in the physical effect. So we discussed about the medium being necessary for a physical effect, but not necessarily being aware or not that they are being used. But without a medium present around, it doesn't need to be in the room. It can be in the building, it can be in the neighborhood. A physical effect needs a medium for the spirit to make it happen. It's a combination of the fluid of the spirit through their perispirit and the ectoplasm of, or the vital fluid of the medium to produce the phenomena. Okay, so that's what we discussed, and the duration of the phenomena depends on the amount of fluids that is available, and also how much more or less the phenomena can be made. Depending on the spirit. So, Philip, you want to read for us, or you're there? No.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so I read the first part, so maybe you can read us now.
Why, certainly, maybe.
Thank you.
If I get the screen back.
Oh, you.
I got it.
We are on question 19.
19. Why can't everyone produce the same effects? And why don't all mediums possess the same power? It depends on physical composition and the greater or lesser ease in combining the fluids. It further depends on the greater or lesser affinity between the mediums and the spirits, who find in the medium the required fluidic potency. As is the case with magnetizers, this potency is either little or great. In this regard, we have found individuals who are completely resistant to the process, others in which the combining of the fluids only occurs because they exert their own will. Finally, others in which it occurs so naturally and easily that they are not even aware of it, where they serve as unknowing instruments, as we have just stated. See below the chapter concerning spontaneous manifestations. There is no doubt that magnetism is the principle behind these phenomena, but not as is generally supposed. We have proof of this in the existence of powerful magnetizers who cannot even move a small table, while there are individuals, even children, who do not know how to magnetize at all and who merely have to place their fingers upon a heavy table in order for it to shake. Thus, if mediumistic power does not depend on magnetic power, it must have some other cause.
Okay. So the question here is why doesn't all mediums possess the same power of producing the physical phenomena? And the answer from the spirits it is that it varies with each medium. And we know that according to our studies that mediums have different abilities, and mediums capable of producing physical phenomena are not the same as mediums of intelligent phenomena, and so on and so forth. But Kardec brings here, or the spirits bring, no, actually it's Kardec on the second page that he talks about magnetism. We have to remember that at that time magnetism was very discussed and it's very used and very discussed. and magnetizers that appeared with Mesmer before Kardec, and Kardec actually studied Mesmer, and he was a magnetizer himself before learning about spiritism, and it's starting to develop the codification. So Kardec says here that magnetism is the principle behind the phenomena, but not as generally supposed. So when we talk about magnetizers, people that use their own energy to transmit fluids to others or to objects, and we know that passes, for instance, have most of the energies come from the spiritual world, but we have a small amount that can come from the pass giver himself or herself, and some have more ability, are more magnetizers than other. But being a powerful magnetizer doesn't mean that you can perform physical manifestations, because one thing has nothing to do with the other. And now we know that what really causes physical manifestation is the amount of ectoplasm that the medium can produce. And magnetism is a subproduct of the vital fluid, and it's different from the ectoplasm. So it's kind of all confusing here. But what is important for us to understand is that the medium has to be part of it. And someone very fragile as a child can produce a lot of ectoplasm and be able to produce powerful phenomena even without being aware of it. And some powerful magnetizers may not be able to produce the same phenomena because they don't produce enough ectoplasm, or they need the association with the spirits also, and that may not happen. Okay. All right, Philip, next.
Can those called electricals be regarded as mediums? Such individuals draw from within themselves the fluid required for producing the phenomena, and they can act without the aid of spirits. They are not mediums per se in the precise meaning of the word. It might happen that a spirit will assist them and take advantage of their natural abilities. However, such individuals are like somnambulists who can act with or without spirits helping them. See chapter 14 below, mediums, in the section dealing with somnambulists.
Yeah, in my opinion, talking about somnambulists is more interesting than talking about electricals. Electricals is just people, and we know, that have this ability to produce phenomena by themselves. We know these illusionists that have the ability to bend forks and spoons and have the ability to produce this type of phenomena. That these are, by the individuals themselves, and this is what they're calling electricals here. But they're not necessarily mediums. They may have an ability to be a medium and connect with the spirits, but the fact that they are able to produce the phenomena themselves does not make them mediums, okay? They're not the same thing. And when we talk about somnambulists, that's a different story, right? But what they say here, that such individuals are like somnambulists. What are somnambulists, for all those that do not study it before with us? We are not talking about sleepwalking here, okay? This is not the somnambulism we are talking about. Somnambulists are those that have the ability to enter into a trance, into a semi-conscious state of mind, and interact with the spiritual world. So reporting what they see, what they hear, what they feel while they are in the spiritual world back to us. So this, in the pure sense of what the definition of medium, is not medium. because a medium is an intermediary between the spiritual world and a physical world. When you are going there, looking what's happening and reporting them, you are not a medium, you are a reporter. So a somnambulist is someone that can, but the somnambulist can also be a medium. He can transmit the message from a spirit. So a somnambulist goes to the spiritual world, receives a message from a spirit, and brings the message to us. So he's acting like a medium. But somnambulist goes to the spiritual world, sees what's going on there, and then comes and tells us what they saw there, what they experienced there. I saw my grandmother. I had a long chat with her. We talked about her living conditions in the spiritual world. She was telling me that she'd sometimes see my grandfather, but sometimes not. This is not mediumship. This is just me reporting what I experienced in the spiritual world as a somnambulist. Okay, so that's what they are talking about here in terms of somnambulists. You got the idea? Yes, Danny.
So just to organize here my thoughts. Magnetism, anyone and mediums can have.
Yes.
And ectoplasm, only mediums.
No, everybody has.
But when they use,
the difference between everybody and the mediums is the amount of ectoplasm produced.
Oh, so that's why they need ectoplasm from the mediums also,
yes.
Because they have more.
Yeah. Yes.
So when
mediums of physical effects have a lot of ectoplasm. That's why the spirits can use them. My ectoplasm that I produce is insignificant. It's not useful for the spirits for physical effects. But I do produce ectoplasm. You do. All of us, we do.
But it's not enough.
But it's not enough. Yeah.
And that's the case when spirits can use this ectoplasm without the medium's knowledge or our knowledge.
Yes. Yeah. Whenever ectoplasm is used from a medium, the medium will feel depleted of energy. So sometimes people will tell you, I feel so tired. I wasn't doing anything. I was just watching TV in my room, and suddenly I feel so tired. Maybe, they being used as a medium of physical effects. I'm just giving you a silly example here, right? But the production of ectoplasm and the use of ectoplasm by spirits will deplete the energy of the medium. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Next one, Philip.
When they act upon solid objects, do spirits penetrate their substance or do they remain outside it? They do both. We have already stated that matter is no obstacle to spirits who can penetrate anything. A portion of their perispirit identifies itself, so to speak, with the object it penetrates.
Sounds confusing, right?
What do they mean by
yeah, so what Kardec is asking here is, when the spirits lift a table, do they remain outside the table or they integrate themselves inside the table to lift it? And the answer is they do both, because what the problem here is that you are trying to combine the physical world with the spiritual world. A table is not a solid object for a spirit. It is for us incarnates, but it's not for a spirit. A spirit to move a table needs a medium, needs the ectoplasm of a medium. How they move the table? Through their thoughts. So they can be raising the table if someone has the ability to see them. if they want to show themselves that they are raising the table, lifting the table, or they can be in the middle of the table, you know, lifting it with a table around them, if we could describe how you see them, or none of those. You know, actually the answer should be both or none of it, because you are trying to mix water and oil. They don't mix. They are different substances. A spirit and a table are in different planes of existence. That's why a spirit cannot lift a table by itself. It needs the medium, the ectoplasm of the medium to act upon a table. But the action, and we discussed this last week, is through the mind of the spirit. It's not a physical action of the spirit. Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Continue.
No, Daniela has a question and Renato has a question.
So if moving a table is a matter of it's about thinking about it. It's in the thought, right?
Yeah.
Can a regular
Of the spirit.
Hmm?
Of the spirit.
Yeah. So can a spirit who is in the body, like any like us, do the same thing using ectoplasm of other mediums? Just by
I incarnate spirit and another incarnate spirit.
Yeah. So
well,
objects by using ectoplasm and then just thinking about it.
We can move objects with our magnetic power. You know, you go back to the electricals. So we don't need another incarnate. A person that has the ability by itself. So a person, yes, can move a table. It's possible, but not very common. But you see the magicians, the illusionists, they do that. So some part of are tricks, and some part are their, you know, this ability of moving things around, right? That they have, some of them, not all of them, some of them. So, you know, it's unlikely to think of an incarnated using another incarnated to move a table with their minds. But again, we are all spirits, so I won't say impossible. Renato.
No, it's kind of the same, in the same line. I was gonna ask if a medium can control the spirit to do whatever, you know, he wants in terms of moving objects, but it's kind of the same line of question.
Yeah, what the spirits tells us that when a medium actively participates on the phenomena, it improves the quality of the phenomena. So when a spirit is using a medium that is not aware, the spirit is doing by itself. But if a spirit is using a medium that is participating, meaning when they had the table, the turning tables, you had everyone sitting around the table with their hands on the table, and all of them wanted the table to move. So that makes it easier for the spirit, because you have more than one mind focusing on the same phenomena and same desire. But the spirit doesn't necessarily need it. It's just it helps if the medium is there. The other way around, isn't the other way around what the turning tables started with, right? Because it started the phenomena, and then a lot of people sitting around the table wanting the phenomena to happen, and summoning the spirits to make the phenomena happen. Doesn't guarantee that the spirit's going to perform the phenomena, because they are not at our subjection. But you know, if I don't know if that's what you asked, but yes, it's possible. If that's what you were thinking.
Thank you. Are we going to study the materialization forward down the line, or?
I think we are going to talk about it, but I don't remember. I believe so.
Okay, I'll wait.
Oops. Sorry, I lost here where we are. Let me get back to where we are. Did that already. Okay, 22.
How does a spirit produce raps? Does it use a physical object? No. Just as they do not use their arms to lift a table, you must realize that they do not have hammers at their disposal to produce raps. Instead, their hammer is the combined fluid that they put into action using their will to move objects or produce raps. When they move objects, light transmits the movement to your sight. When they produce raps, air transmits the sound to you.
So, you know, I was thinking of the noises that wind produces, right? It's air moving, right? So if the spirits can produce raps by moving air, you know, they don't use their arms to lift a table. They do not need hammers to produce raps. They use air, using the fluid, the universal fluid that they know how to manipulate to produce the raps. It's air that makes a sound, and we know very well that air can make a sound. You just have to be part of a very heavy rainstorm, you know, to see how much noise the air can make, the wind can make, right? Okay, all right.
We can understand this when dealing with a hard object, but how can a spirit make us hear noises or articulated sounds within the air alone? Since it can act upon matter, it can thus act upon air in the same way that it acts upon a table. As for articulating sounds, it can imitate them just like all other noises.
Yes, more of the same. You know, just something that we just discussed, how they produce the raps, the noises and everything, utilizing air, utilizing matter. Okay.
You have stated that a spirit does not use its hands to move a table, but during certain visual manifestations, hands have appeared that played keyboards, actually moving the keys and producing sounds. In this case, isn't the movement of the keys produced by the pressure of their fingers? And isn't the pressure of their fingers direct and real when we feel them touch us and when they even leave marks on skin? You cannot comprehend the nature of spirits and the way they act by merely using comparisons, which provide only an incomplete idea of the matter. It is always a mistake to compare their manner of acting to yours. Spirits must always act in accordance with their organization. Haven't we stated that the perispirit's fluid penetrates matter and identifies with it, endowing it with artificial life? Well then, when a spirit plays a keyboard with its fingers, it is really doing so. However, it does not use muscular force to press the keys. Instead, like the table, it animates the keyboard, which obeys its will and vibrates the strings. In cases such as this, something else happens that is hard for you to comprehend. Certain spirits are still so little evolved and so material in comparison with evolved spirits that they retain the illusions of earthly life and think that they continue to act as they did when they were in the body. They do not perceive the true cause of the effects they produce. as a commoner does not understand the theory behind the sounds he or she produces. If you ask such spirits how they can play the piano, they will say that they use their fingers since that is what they believe. They produce the effect instinctively without even knowing how. Nonetheless, they actually produce it by their will. Whenever they speak or make themselves heard, it is the same thing. Thus, we can understand that spirits can produce all the effects we ourselves can, but by means in keeping with their organization. They possess certain inner forces that replace our muscles, just as persons who cannot speak sign with their hands.
So, you know, we go back to us trying to think that spirits, because the perispirit is the physical body is a reflection of the perispirit. So the perispirit is the same as the physical body in a sense, that the spirit will act using the perispirit as in the same way we use the physical body. And Kardec asked the spirits when mediums, they're able to see spirits playing the piano, a physical manifestation again. They actually see the spirit moving the keys and producing sounds with their hands. So isn't the movement of the keys produced by the pressure of their fingers? And the spirits are telling us, listen, you don't really comprehend the nature of the spirits and how they act. You're trying to use a comparison to the physical body, and it's not the same, because the spirits do not have muscles as we have. And here we are talking about a relationship between a spiritual body and a physical object, a piano. A spirit to play piano have to use a medium of physical effects. They can appear as they are playing the piano themselves, and they can even think that they are using their fingers to play the piano, but actually they are using their will to play the piano, and they don't recognize. They are not using muscular force to press the keys. They are using their minds, but they don't know that. They are less evolved. So remember, again, the movie Ghost, when he learns how to kick the can in the subway station, the spirit that teaches him, tells him, is the force of your mind that will make you kick the can. And he tries to learn, and eventually he learns it. Actually, I just read that Ghost is it's 30 years since it was launched, and they're doing a special session in cinemas to commemorate. And you go back to that movie, and there is a lot of reality of the spiritual world, in a sense, of what you see in that movie. Is one of the best movies ever made about life, you know, the spiritual life and the relationship between the spiritual world and the physical world, of course with the concessions to Hollywood. But you know, he doesn't know how he kicks the can. He just knows that he can kick it. He learned through his willpower to kick the can, but he still thinks that he's kicking the can with his foot, but he's not. He's kicking the can with his mind. The foot is just how he acts to kick the can. But again, the can and the foot are different planes of existence, so it doesn't really need it. It can move the can. And if you remember him with the coin at the door, that he raises the coin through the door, and in the later scene of the movie, right? And he's lifting it with his finger, and again, it's the same thing. It's not really his finger; it's his mind, because his finger cannot touch the coin, If the finger could touch the coin, he could have kissed the lady. And Molly, I think was her name, right? And he cannot. And in the movie, they show that he actually just kisses her through the medium, right? So it's, for us, it's difficult because we are so physically connected to our physical bodies, and we are so used to act with our physical body, that to think that the action is through the mind and the physical body has the spiritual body has no participation in it, in a sense, it's hard to understand. But you know, the senses in the perispirit are not localized, are everywhere. And for us, that's also difficult to understand, right? That we don't talk through our mouths, that we don't smell through our noses. It's the sensations are everywhere in the perispirit. So, but the interaction with the physical plane, it's done through the will, not through the specific parts of the perispirit. Yes, Danny.
So since you are talking about the movie Ghost, with the scene you just described, that he kisses Molly through the medium, right? But in the end, he makes himself visible to her.
Yeah.
So that's a different thing that he did there, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
he's not using a medium to show himself, or she opens up and sees it, or he's doing something that he makes his body, his perispirit, I would say, visible.
Yeah, we can discuss here. You know, this is Hollywood, so they did it for dramatization effect. But if we want to explain through spiritism, we can use two things. First, a materialization. So he appears to her, but everyone around her, there was no one there, but everyone around her could see him if he would appear. Or she, in a semi-state of conscious, goes to the spiritual world and is able to interact with him, her perispirit, in a trance state that you know, that she does. I don't know how, but it's possible. So you can be one or another. The movie doesn't tell us which route they took, and probably they didn't even know that it was possible. They just did it because of the dramatization effect, to have a nice ending to the movie, right? Before he goes into the light, he kisses her goodbye. We know there is no going to the light, right? So that creates a problem. Also, all the scene that he ends up killing the other guy, that I forgot his name, that he pushes the other guy, he goes all over the other guy. That's really not something that is easy to do, or it's possible, but very hard in terms of spirit acting over someone else. But you know, they don't go explaining that much. But you know, in the end, everything there is possible. Some of them are not likely.
Well, we are talking about these possibilities because she was not a seeing medium. Because if she was a seeing medium, she could see him since the first time he came to see her. Okay.
Yeah. But the fact that you are not a seeing medium or not a medium doesn't mean that you cannot, in a state of enter into a state of trance and go to the spiritual world, right? You can go through a trance, not necessarily as a mediumship, but through drugs, through meditation, through other things, right? You don't need to be a medium. So it's possible that she can go to the spiritual world and meet with him there. It's another possibility. More likely, it would be some sort of materialization that he went through, temporary materialization that he went through to interact with her. makes more sense. It's easier to understand. But again, it's just speculation on a movie that was wrote by someone that thought that the success was, you know, it was the spooky side of it. So was never able to do something similar. Like the guy that wrote it, Sixth Sense, that thought that the horror part of it was the good part that made the success, and he was never able to do anything similar to the Sixth Sense. Mr. Shemalian, or whatever is his name. All right. So
why you say it's rare for the spirits act on a living thing? Let's put it that way. Because the principle is the same, right? Is ectoplasma acting on matter, and any living thing here we're matter. You know, I mean, I never heard of spirits like lifting an actual person or a living thing, but why is that? Is it harder? It takes it goes against the law of the living thing. What's the?
Yeah, it has a series of things, right? You have to have an amount of ectoplasm that it's not very achievable. You have to take into consideration the person that is being attacked, that has its own defenses. So again, it's possible, but not likely. Okay. For several reasons. I don't know what else to say here. Okay.
Shall I read?
Yes, please.
Among the phenomena cited as proofs for the action of a concealed power, there are those who are obviously contrary to all the known laws of nature. Hence, isn't it correct to question them? It just so happens that humans are far from knowing about all the laws of nature. If they knew about them, it would imply that they were highly evolved spirits. However, every day there are incidents to disprove those who think they know everything, who intend to impose limits on nature, and yet they are no less proud of themselves at the fact. By constantly unveiling new mysteries, God warns people that they must distrust their own knowledge, because a day will come in which the knowledge of the most learned person will be confounded. Every day, don't you see examples of objects that are impelled by a motion that is capable of overcoming the power of gravity? Doesn't a ball thrown into the air momentarily overcome this force? Poor humans, who regard yourselves as being so learned, and whose foolish vanity is confused at every turn, you must realize that you are still so very small.
So the spirits here go directly to the point, right? Come on. Be humble. Try to be humble. Try not to think that you know everything.
Right. Yeah.
We go back to what we discussed about miracles, right? Miracles do not exist. What exists is our lack of knowledge of how miracles happen, how the things happen, phenomena that we do not understand. So when what we think is contrary to the all known laws of nature is actually a law of nature that we don't know yet. So when we think that we know everything is when we are going to find ourselves facing things that we don't know and we cannot explain. And because we don't know and we cannot explain, we say that they are not possible. They are impossible. And the spirits just tell us, listen, you regarded as being so learned. You must realize that you are still very small. And Luis is gone, but I'm going to use his example, right? That you are the small worker of Amazon in Ethiopia, and you want to understand the mind of Jeff Bezos. You're not going to. So that's us in face of the creation, right? We know very little. So whatever we don't understand, and since Kardec wrote this to today, see how many more things we learned, how much more we evolved, and we thought we knew everything at that time, and we have plenty of scientists today that think they know everything. So it's just when we look at them 200 years from now, we are going to say the same thing. Poor people in 2020 that thought they knew everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next, Philip.
The above explanations are clear, categorical, and unambiguous. From them, we may emphasize the crucial point that the universal fluid, which harbors the principle of life, is the chief agent in manifestations, and that this agent receives its impulse from the spirit, whether incarnate or discarnate. This condensed fluid comprises the perispirit or semi-material envelope of the spirit. When incarnate, the perispirit is connected to the matter of the body. In the errant state, it is free. While the spirit is incarnate, the substance of its perispirit is more or less bound, more or less adherent to it, if we may put it so. In certain individuals, there is a kind of emanation of this fluid as a result of particular conditions in their physical composition, which is, properly speaking, what produces physical effects mediums. The greater or lesser abundance of the emanation of this animalized fluid and the ease with which it is combined determines the medium's power. This emanation is not permanent, however, which explains the intermittency of the ability.
So everything goes back to the universal fluid, right? Remember, we have God, spirits, and universal fluid. Everything that is not God and not spirits is the universal fluid. So the perispirit comes from the universal fluid. The vital fluid that animates our physical body comes from the universal fluid. Our physical body comes from the universal fluid. Everything that surrounds us comes from the universal fluid. So condensations of the universal fluid that forms the perispirit or semi-material envelope of the spirit. When incarnate, the perispirit is connected to the matter of the body, which is also universal fluid. So when we are incarnate, the perispirit is kind of attached to the physical body in a sense, not really inside or outside it, but attached to it. And we can produce this phenomena, this ectoplasm in a quantity that can make us a medium of physical effects. And this animalized fluid that we produce, that is the ectoplasm, and combining it with the medium's power and the fluids produced by the spirit is what's going to make the phenomena happen. And this emanation is not permanent. We don't produce ectoplasm on a constant basis to produce physical phenomena on a continuum basis. So, when we are depleted, we no longer have ectoplasm enough to produce the phenomena, and the phenomena ceases to exist, okay? It's a little bit of what we've been going through, so not new there. Okay.
Continue?
Go on. Yeah.
Let us make a comparison. When we want to strike something that is some distance away, we first determine to do so with our thought, but thought alone cannot actualize our intent. We need an intermediary, which our thought will direct, a stick, a projectile, a blast of air, etc. Note further that our thought cannot act directly upon the stick, for if we do not touch it, it will not act by itself. Our thought, which is the spirit itself incarnated in our body, is united to the body by the perispirit and cannot act upon the body without it, in the same way that it cannot act upon the stick without the help of the body. Therefore, the spirit acts upon the perispirit, which is the substance with which it has the most affinity. Then the perispirit acts upon the muscles, which in turn enable the hand to pick up the stick and the stick to strike the target. When the spirit is not incarnate, it requires an instrument, the fluid that aids it in making the object carry out the impulse of its will.
So it's Kardec explaining how does it work. So you want to strike something that is far from you, and you want to throw a stick at it. The first thing is you think about it, but just thinking about it's not going to make it happen. So to reach it, we need an intermediary. In this case, the stick. So we think about it. We send the thought to our perispirit, which is the interaction that we have with our physical body. The perispirit sends the thought to the physical body, and the physical body acts on the thought. But this is done on an immediate basis, so it doesn't take that long. It just happens automatically. So that's how it happens. The spirit acts upon the perispirit, then the perispirit acts upon the muscles, which enable the hand to pick up the stick and strike the target. So this is when we are incarnate. If we're not incarnate, we'll need an intermediary, and the intermediary will be a medium of physical effects in order for us to be able to use the stick and make it go towards something. Okay.
Hey, João.
Yeah.
On the spiritual realm, things are made of the same. Like, for example, how does the spirit move things on the spiritual realm?
Again, the matter in the spiritual realm is much more ethereal than matter here, but it's appropriate to the spirits that are living in it. So they're not moving like they move here. They are creating the places, the objects that live with their collective minds of the spirits living around, and they will move it with their minds also, but not really looking at it and making move, but by acting over it like we do here. So when you read Nosso Lar and you see, I just mentioned the governor, he's walking with a stick in his hand, like old people do. So, he's really using it as an aid to walk. Does he need it? No, of course he does not. But how does he use it? He uses it like we use here in the physical world. Remember, the physical world is a copy of the spiritual world. It's a bad copy of the spiritual world. So what you have to think is that what we do here is a reflection of what we do there. It's just that things there are much more ethereal than here.
I was asking because, in some books you have, spirits that enslave other spirits and do things with them. And since everything is done through mind and the power of thought, so are those spirits controlling, like like
Yes.
some sort of a mind control over the other spirits, that the translation of that control, they see themselves being beaten or enslaved or whatever.
Yes, exactly. It's
So
mind control.
It's all mind control. There's not actual happening. Whatever they feel is just a translation of the mind control.
Yeah, but the spirit that is going on is feeling the effects of like like a physical effect. So if they are being beaten, they are going to feel the pain. If they are being enslaved and chained, they are going to feel the chains. And you see that on Mondays, right? Feel free me from the chains. Why? There are no chains there. But yes, there are. They feel chains, and there are chains. So again, we are trying to compare the physical world with the spiritual world, and the matter is it's a different type of matter, much less ethereal, but it is still matter, and you still can create chains and tables and chairs and everything else we create with our own minds. It's just that the creation is much more subtle than here in the physical world.
Oh, the $1 million question. Those, spirits, like those angry one that they enslave people, they know how to control their minds and do all those things. When they come to a place like the mediumship meetings, they are the ones that have, are being, chained or whatever, but they know how to do, quote unquote, the trick. So how's that possible for them to believe something that,
Because they know how to do the trick to less intellectually evolved than them, but they don't know how the trick works. So more evolved spirits can trick them in the same way that they trick less evolved, and because they don't know that this is not a possibility, that it's all in their mind. They know that they can do it. They are doing with their minds without being fully aware that it's their mind. They think that they have the power. So in the same way that they have the power over the less evolved ones, the more evolved spirits have the power over them in the same way. Otherwise, they wouldn't come to the place. They wouldn't stay in the place. You see that they complain about being chained, about being forced to come. How they are chained and forced to come if they know? The fact that they don't.
Okay, so they believe the same thing that they do has been done to them.
Yes. So if they know, if they can do this to someone, someone can do this to them, right?
Thank you.
Yes, Danny.
So the same way we look at more evolved worlds, like in the example you were talking now, worlds that are less evolved than us can look up at Earth and say the same thing. So they are a worse copy than, like it's a worse copy than us. It's a bad copy of our world. Like matter can be more dense and
the only thing we can compare is with when Earth was a primitive world, right? When before humans existed here, the time of the dinosaurs or right after the dinosaurs. This was the primitive world. So you compare to what we live today, and they cannot look up to the more evolved worlds because they don't even have the comprehension and understanding that we are in the process of evolution. The understanding that we are in the process of evolution, that there are superior world, this is something more recent to us. Is what, 6,000 years that we are in this journey. Before that, we had no idea. We just survived. So we didn't look up to anyone. We just survived. We're trying to live to the next day. So you can say that when agriculture started, that we start creating gods, that's what, 10,000 years ago, or I don't know exactly, 15,000, 10,000. That's when we started looking for something above us. Before that, we didn't. We were just surviving. So we're not looking to anyone. So if a primitive world is not going to look at us as a more evolved world, because they don't even have the notion that this thing exists.
But the other way around, we can do the analogy. We looking at them or whatever inferior worlds that are beneath us or I don't know, inferior to us. It could be the same way, for example, as Nosso compared to us, more or less. So like it's
not Nosso Lar, a more evolved one. Nosso Lar is really us here.
Us here. So like more evolved than Nosso is harder for us to grasp. So the inferior worlds would be having the same trouble.
If they went through the exercise, yes, but they don't even go through the exercise. They don't have the capacity to go through the exercise of imagining something better.
So we would be the first level that starts having the awareness.
Yes. We in the civilization, when we started civilization is when we start being conscious of something else. Before that, we were not. Like a dog or a cat don't have an idea of a spiritual life or anything like that. When we come out of that phase, we don't. We just have survival instinct, basically. We are almost animals. So it takes a while for us to reach a stage where we start entertaining the notion of a god or of superior forces or things like that.
So the spirits that are not coming back to Earth, as we know, because they are not progressing or they're not into it, they don't want it for any reasons, they're going to be reincarnated in worlds like that. That
already have the ability to see beyond themselves. You see, Egypt, when Capella came, they already had the ability to imagine God. They're already creating gods and they're already thinking of spiritual life. So you're not going to go to a place that you cannot be of any use. That is too much down. You have to go to a place less evolved than you are, so you can be of assistance to them to help them evolve intellectually and to help you evolve morally. But if you go to a place that nobody can even understand you, what's the use? Right?
So Nosso Lar is not more evolved than us.
No, it's us there. We go to places like Nosso Lar at our stage of evolution if we are not caught up in the lower zones by our own imperfections, guilty, or things like that. If we have a normal, decent life without, with all the imperfections and mistakes that we make, and we have the understanding that there is something else, that we can find a place in the spiritual world that can help us continue evolving, we'll find ourselves in a place like Nosso Lar. It's not more evolved than us. It's where we fit. A more evolved place is, it's for the few exceptions. Like André Luiz's mother went to a more evolved place. We don't have much about her, but she's a more evolved spirit. And we have these spirits here, spirits that are, my guess is that Mother Teresa, Chico Xavier would not go to Nosso Lar, would go to a more elevated place than Nosso Lar. And Nosso Lar is for us mere mortals, right? Okay, 8:45, we have to stop. Actually, I wanted to read 77 because it's a continuation of 76, but I'll leave to Elmo for next week. Next week, Elmo will be back and he will wrap it up from there, okay? Okay. Anna, you want to do the final prayer? You're there, quiet all night.
Sure.
With much gratitude, we thank our spiritual mentors, our Almighty God and Jesus, our Master, for all these teachings, for all the patience and light in trying to show us better ways or different ways of revolving, of being more charitable, of growing and helping each other in this process. May we go through the rest of the week reflecting on the lessons that we just studied together, on the examples from the colleagues that shared ideas and interpretations, and continue to explore and study, and return next week to continue in the same vibration of learning together and hoping to connect with more evolved spirits and friends in this process together. May our families continue in peace, our friends and co-workers. Shall we all continue in health and be able to see each other soon again. And with that, we ask permission to close the meeting. So be it.